Like a waterfall, truth is beautiful and turbulent. It crashes on rock, but over time it erodes, altering the cascade and carving depth where there was once only surface. Sometimes you can feel the rumble as it's approaching, and sometimes the drop comes out of nowhere. But when it falls, it flows easily. You can love it from a distance and admire its shimmer, but you don't want to unexpectedly topple over the edge either. When someone chooses to dive in, it's freeing, scary, but exhilarating, and an accomplishment to resurface and keep swimming. But when someone's thrown over, it's a free fall, flailing and often destabilizing. They have to hold their breath or find it again, and when they do, that gasp feels revitalizing, but it can take a while to reach the surface, and their surroundings have changed. In relationships, truth is the same. It can be liberating, or it can rock the whole boat. And that's why truth sometimes needs consent. That sounds like, hey, I see a pattern here, but it might be heavy, so I'll ask first. Do you want to hear it? Or, I want to be honest about how I'm feeling. Are you in a headspace where we can talk about this? Because truth can cleanse, but it can also push someone under. And sometimes you didn't mean to push, but you still have to own that ripple. Overexposure can numb us to its beauty, and truth just becomes background noise. Another waterfall you don't pay attention to. But with practice, clarity stops capsizing us, and it becomes a rhythm, a shared current. One where, if someone falls out in the downpour, the other reaches in and pulls them back. Because truth isn't meant to drown us. And if we decide to go over the waterfall together, with care and mutual trust, it's transformative. You see, truth is not the enemy or the hero. It's just an element. Let's take a drive. So, we've talked about truth as a waterfall, being cleansing, overwhelming, powerful, transformative in a positive or a negative way. But what happens when opposing truths meet? Let's shift gears for a second and picture a seesaw. One truth sits on one side, the other person's truth on the other. It only works and it's only fun when there's give and take. You go, I go, back and forth. Reciprocity, movement, play. But what if one truth is always held higher, louder even, more important, and the other person stays stuck on the ground? Well, the one on the ground has 3 choices. Number 1, ask for balance. This takes courage because it risks the other person stepping off altogether. It asks to be seen and met in the middle. Number 2, accept their position on the bottom. This is safer and quieter, but the joy fades. Resentment can grow, and when someone stays grounded in misalignment, especially with something truly integral to their core, they can't remain there. So, number 3, exit the ride. This can look like a sharp dismount. The other comes crashing down with a hard thud, possibly hurt, almost always surprised. This seems to be the choice that people take most often. So then the question for both sides is, have you made your truth known and made room for someone else's to sit alongside it? Because when 2 people teeter on the seesaw of truth, they must recalibrate and adjust, release their side as absolute, and learn how to balance, either by stabilizing the ride or embracing the rhythm of rise and return. Because the best seesaws aren't about being right, aren't about being stagnant. They're about moving together. Testing your truth is like starting at the gym. It's baby steps, baby reps. Her firm belief is not built overnight. And like lifting weights, you have to bring it up against resistance and test its strength. And that means taking what someone says and checking, does this align with what's true inside me? And if the resistance gets too high, if your truth legitimately starts to waver under the weight, it's okay to pause for a moment. It's okay to ask yourself, am I trying to lift this weight from ego or because I genuinely believe it? If it's the former and you need to alter your workout, that doesn't mean you've abandoned your session altogether. You might just be adding a little cardio or joining a group class, creating your own circuit from the truths you've tested. So how does this relate to the seesaw? Those opposing truths we find in relationships. If both people have met resistance and keep strengthening, and then realize they're deeply misaligned or one is higher than the other, the ride won't be fun. But if they can borrow exercises from each other's workouts, they might just create a fusion that builds strength in new ways. And that brings us to part 2, building truth from discernment. Strengthening truth doesn't just relate to romantic relationships either. More importantly, it builds the muscle of discernment. And once you've built that muscle, you can test it on almost any weight. Politics, relationships, philosophy, identity. Because you've learned how to step outside the narrative and find what you truly believe. Someone, maybe your partner, can label you a certain way and you can test if that's true and calmly respond if it's not. For example, I once saw some back and forth start to become pretty heated. I didn't think the argument was really about liking or disliking a rule. It was about respecting that rule to keep things enjoyable for everyone. So I dropped in my 2 cents. And that was met with resistance. I engaged again, and the resistance got heavier. But with discernment, I was steady enough not to take it personally. I didn't get pulled into the fight or let my ego try to win the round. Instead, and with a little humour, I named that it sounded like projection, which is exactly what it was. And then, just like that, the conversation changed and we all continued chatting. I think this is what they mean when they say, live your truth. Test it, strengthen it, adjust where needed, but know with clarity what it is for you. And, in turn, be able to weave it with another's to create something new. But that's a story for another time. What if I told you that every view you have on relationships is a storyline inherited from someone else? Every argument you replay, every ideal you chase, every silence you sit through, someone else wrote a version of it first. Because before even meeting your partner, you bring with you the book of love as witnessed by me, a collection of modelled relationships from family, anecdotes from friends and acquaintances, embellished retellings and imaginings from movies, books and television. You take all that you've seen, everything you've heard and how you felt, and you combine it to create a source compendium on relationships. 2 separate people bringing 2 separate prologues to volume 1 of your combined book series. Now, if we're searching for our own truth, these weights are some of the hardest to test against because they've helped shape us. And so also shape how we view our partners, our expectations of them, and the way we interact with them. Sounds like autopilot, right? A lot of the time it is. Rarely do we openly share our emotional drafts of relationships. We co-write outcomes and logistics, like where we want to live, how many, if any, children, the lifestyle we want, travel plans, etc. But we seldom discuss the templates we believe or want to co-author when it comes to how we disagree, how we present an issue to one another, what causes tension for us, or how our roles will balance each other. We just start writing and assume the chapters will blend together seamlessly. But this leads to conflicts becoming confusing as we pull from different source material. And the truth is, those outcomes seen from the outside the ones that are easiest to define, are curated from the inside, and the manual we refer to. Now, writers change their story all the time. Someone might comment, "Why doesn't the character do this?" Why don't they? One question can change an entire arc. And the same is true in relationships. Not one person being written as the victim and the other a villain, but a co-authorship where both are willing to revise it together. No two sentences can be written at once, so the editing procedure requires collaboration. And keeping the ending in mind, but staying curious about how the story writes itself to get there. Because the best tales aren't linear and without surprise. They blend origin, conflict, togetherness, and outcome to tell a truly engaging story. So, are there parts of your story you'd like to revert to draft and gently red pen?